Hey, Chantell.
Hi.
Hey, guys, this is Chantell. I'm honored to have her as my first guest on Leaders and Lattes. She's the founder of Hina's Legacy Rescue Foundation, a dedicated animal rescue, and also an advocate for over a decade, right? Rescue experience. Her journey began with just a passion for helping both people and animals, which involved commitment to rescue work. She founded a nonprofit in memory of her Hina and Noah, her two animals, who she deeply impacted her life. Under her leadership, Hina's legacy continues to make a profound impact on animal welfare in Hawaii, rescue, and focusing on rehabilitation and advocating for stronger animal protection laws in Hawaii. Hey, Chantel, how's it going?
Hi. Good.
Thank-
How are you?
Thanks for being on here. We appreciate you as my first guest.
Thank you.
The reason I have you on is because I wanted to highlight some of our influential leaders throughout our community is impactful. And you guys being one of the first, because I recently ran into you folks not too long ago by accident, I would say,
Yes.
when I posted that social media reel about those two dogs that need a rescue. And
Right.
you were the first to reach out.
Yeah.
So tell me more about, your nonprofit and Hina and where it came about and the story of that.
So I did rescue for the past, I would say 11 years, but more frequently, the past 8 years. I worked with other organizations, and my partner and I would basically trap animals and take them and hand them over to other organizations. Um, not sure if I can mention names, but they're all local organizations that work around the
Mm,
Oahu area. Um, and I noticed over time that we were told that they can't take the animals from us. So there was a lot of times when they would close the doors to receiving or having us surrender the animals to them. And at that time, I didn't understand why, right? Because every animal needed to be saved. Like, how can we say no to this case or that case and such? And so then I got into rescue, and then I started understanding why. It's because when you don't have funding, or you don't have fosters, or you don't have people to step up and help with receiving the animal or the care, or fostering or even adopting, then at some point we have to say no.
right.
And it's heartbreaking because there's so many cases out there, and that's kind of where my passion went. And um, I rescued Hina. I want to say 2019, 2020.
Okay.
She was one of our rescues, her and her sibling Kaipo. And long story short, she went into a different foster because she was pregnant, and I didn't have experience with pregnant animals. So she was transferred to another foster. She was there for a duration of time that she had her pups. During that time, she was having a hard time because they were separating the pups from her. And she was so attached to them that it was heartbreaking. She would break down doors to get to them. She did everything to get to them. And so at
Wow.
some point, they said that I needed to take her back. So I did. But she was heartbroken. She would
Wow.
gather up all her toys nighttime as if she's nursing them, and take them into her house and sleep with them. And then in the morning, she would wake up and she would take her toys out and she would play with them like she's playing with her pups. So
Wow.
it was super heartbreaking. I'm the type of person that when I rescue any of the animals and they're in my personal care, I get really attached to them.
Mm,
I show them every bit of love. I am constantly giving them my 24-hour time if I could, right? But, we have jobs, we have things to do. But every little time that I have, I dedicate it to them. And that's basically where Hina ended up. She got really attached to me. I had a trip that was scheduled ahead of time, and I couldn't get out of it. It was a family trip.
right.
3 days into being gone, she passed. And I don't
Wow.
know if it's because of abandonment issues. I don't know if it's because she felt like I abandoned her, or she was heartbroken again. But we kind of suspected because there was no trauma. There was no reason. She was healthy. There
There's no
was no
hell reason.
reason. And she was found on her bed with all her toys gathered underneath her, like she was nursing. So, that's she was my drive for the legacy, but Noah came as my drive for the animal cruelty part of the organization, and he was the determining factor that I was going to start this organization.
And
And
tell me about Noah. You said the cruelty part. What happened with Noah?
so Noah was abandoned in my neighborhood, him and another dog. And we have a feeling we know who abandoned him. Um, in our area, there's a lot of chicken fighters, and they don't like animals that strays, right?
Was Hakimo?
No, no, no. It's Waianae Valley side, not
Oh,
the main valley, but the other side of the valley.
okay.
Um, so in the area, there's a lot of chicken fighters, and there has been known to uh, things happen to dogs or animals that disturb their uh, chickens, right?
Right.
So, and we know this. And so, what we do as rescuers is we try as much as possible to either trap um, or find somebody to take them or secure them in an area where they won't go trailing off. And so we did for a while, and I was feeding him for about 2 months. And then I noticed something that was out of the ordinary, that I noticed the other dog was around by himself, and they were always together. So about 2 weeks went by, and I was looking for him, and I couldn't find him. And Bear is the other dog that we named him Bear. He would come often. He started traveling the road, so we trapped him because we didn't want him to get to areas that he shouldn't be. Um, about 2 weeks after, while I was looking for Noah, I found him hanging over a bridge. So I took one of my rescues and I took him down for a walk, and I went further down than I normally do. And at the same time, some kids was passing on the bikes, and they seen the same thing I saw. They saw a orange strap hanging from the bridge, and I looked at them and I said, "What is that?" Because they were on that side, and they pulled it up and they turned and they said, "Oh, it's a dog." And I instantly knew that that was Noah. But the
This
funny
happened
thing,
wasn't on news, right? Uh,
yes, yes.
yes. Okay.
So the funny thing is Noah was not friendly. You couldn't catch him. He was too smart. He would not. The whole time I was feeding him, he would not come to me. He would wait until I leave, until he goes to the area to eat. There's no way somebody could have just caught him. They had to have hurt him, wounded him, or possibly even killed him before they even hung him. So, when I pulled him up from that bridge, there was so many slashes on his front paws. Part of his body was already decomposed, but you could see the cuts and the stab wounds and all of that happened to him. And he was a little dog. He was like maybe 25 pounds, totally harmless. And
So
so
what I
he
heard
was
you
my
saying,
drive.
somebody took the time to catch him
Hmm.
and hang him on over the bridge, and at the
Yeah,
same time mutilated him.
yeah. I
It
think
just
I think I think that all happened before they hung him over. I think the hanging was already the last part of, either he was on his way to death or already dead when they hung him.
right.
But he looked in complete distress.
It's terrible.
It was terrible. And so he was my drive. So when that happened, I said, okay, enough is enough. And I decided to open the organization. We immediately started rallies. So we did rallies every month. Um, every area that we heard there was some type of animal cruelty on the news, or people would reach out to me, would go to that district and we would stand and sign wave. We went to the legislatures, we went to the state capitol, we went to Humane Society. We did rallies all over the island.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened for a while because we were restructuring and because of a lot of stuff that happened with our recent animal cruelty case with Max. Um, but that's where everything started. And that was the drive.
And what part of the island do you think you see the most need for, or you see a lot of animal cruelty and a lot of abandoned animals or strays that need rescue? In what
I
district?
think I don't think there's an area that has more than the other. Um, I get calls, messages, emails daily from districts all over the island. People telling me that they're noticing that this dog is being abused. They found this dog um, cut up or dead. Um, I don't think there's a specific place that has more animal cruelty than others.
It's
I
everywhere.
just, yeah, I just think that a lot of people are a lot smarter at hiding it,
Right.
you know. But more recently, this past year, there has been so many more cases that has surfaced for animal cruelty, and
And
I
why would
think
you think that's happening now?
probably because of the movement, probably because they people are noticing that there's some kind of movement for these animals, and more people are willing to speak up,
Right.
or people just don't care and they're just doing it in the open. And a lot of it is that people are doing it in the open. Like people are noticing this daily,
What would you
so
say to someone who, sees something like their neighbor? What would be the steps that they would have to take to report?
so they have to reach out to Hawaiian Humane Society. That is the
First?
first step.
Okay.
So the thing is Hawaiian Humane Society is the only organization on this island that can actually launch an investigation.
That
They're
is a
the
government
only
organization, state.
I believe it's a state organization, yeah.
Okay.
So because of that reason, they're the only ones that can enforce certain things. Whether they're doing welfare check on these animals or whether they're citing people, we as rescues don't have that type of power. We can't take any animals away from anybody. So that would be the first step. It's unfortunate that Humane Society is either there's a lot of reasons why Humane Society don't follow through with a lot of the cases, and I hear so many different reasons from people, but from experience, um, number one, they're shorthanded. Number two, the prosecutor's office does not follow through with prosecuting, and so at
Right.
some point they're like, why are we going to do this if we can't prosecute? A lot of the times when I talk to them, they're like, Chantel, our hands are tied. What do you want us to do?
Right.
Just keep doing it. This is me. My attitude is continue to do it until something changes.
When they say
Something
they
has to
keep
change.
can't keep doing it, is because they don't have enough evidence. Is that what it is to prosecute?
Sometimes they don't, but a lot of the times they do, and that's where Humane Society gets frustrated because they have so much evidence and even the testimonies of uh,
Wit,
the
wit.
inspectors or even witnesses, right? They
Yeah.
have all of this, or even the inspectors that goes out and investigate, they they witness things, and even with their testimony it's not good enough.
Yeah.
So what is then,
Yeah.
right? So and so that would be the first step. The first step would be to contact Humane Society. Second step is contact HPD. They will throw it on the other organization because they do it all the time. Like, that's not my jurisdiction. You got to call Humane Society, or Humane Society will say, we don't handle that. We only handle misdemeanor cases and not criminal cases, and so on. So they throw it back and forth to each other. For me,
Right.
as an organization, I push it, right? Because at some point somebody needs to do something, and if it's
Right.
going to be me, then it's going to be me. And so for what I tell everybody when they call me is, I have to be that last resort. I have to be the last resort that you exhausted everything with HPD and Humane Society, and you gave them every bit of evidence. You're telling them that you want to testify. You have pictures, you have videos, you have dates, you have all of this in order. All of that in order. There's a case, right? They can't ignore it. They will ignore it. Prosecutors
Right.
will ignore it, right? But at some point somebody's going to have to say, okay, enough is enough. Let's take care of it. And that's where I'm pushing, especially with Max.
Yeah. Do we have the data of how many cases that they did pursue and prosecute? Prosecute. for the
Um,
year or the past year, if there is any. Because my concern is that they're kind of like really, because of the lack of resources or time, that they're not really focusing on prosecution because they can be focusing their efforts on other things other than the animals, right?
correct. Yes.
Yeah,
Animal cruelty or anything to do with the animals is not at the top of the list.
yeah,
I don't have the stats of that. Uh, what I did hear though is the last prosecution there was the one that happened in Makaha years ago when they had that
mm,
hoarding case. Um, that was the last one that
yeah,
we heard of. Yeah, but
yeah.
other than that, I've never heard of anything. I've heard even that people are sitting in the courtroom and listening to prosecutors just dismiss every single case, like literally
Right.
sitting there and hearing him say, uh, dismissing every case,
Yeah.
not giving it the opportunity. I mean, there's people out there that's furious behind of this. There's people out there that I know can reach out and say that they experienced it. It's hard. It like this case in Eva Beach, for example, right? There's a 7-year-old child who shoots a dog named Ziggy multiple times
Is that
with a
recent?
BB gun. It happened in 2020, 2023,
Wow.
last year. So
Yeah.
it multiple times with a BB gun that he got from his parents for his birthday, and they allow him to use it, play with it, um, without monitoring.
Mm.
He went to his neighbor's house and he did this to his neighbor's dog. And it wasn't. It was. It. He didn't. It didn't come out until um, a family member of the dog finally confessed that she's seen all of this happen. Right. These are children. 7-year old, 10 years old, 6 years old. They know right from wrong.
Right.
They know what hurting is.
Or holding the
Right.
parents accountable as well, too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And not even that.
So,
They didn't even take that case to the prosecutor's office. Prosecutors looked at it and basically told her, there's nothing to do. He's a kid. What about the parents, though?
so
Right?
how do we educate the community about animal cruelty and neglect that's going
I
on?
mean, it starts in school because it can't start at home because a lot of the children picks up these traits from their parents, right?
Right.
They don't have enough compassion or love for animals to teach that to their children. And they see a dog as a dog, like it's just an animal. You put him in a yard, you tie him up, and that's it. Whereas some kids, it's something that's instilled in them just as a person. And then some kids are like, oh, that's how we were brought up. This is
I can
what we
I can say
did.
the same because when we were brought up, the dogs were always outside.
Yes.
For most local families, we always had them chained up outside. And now that I think back on it, I was,
Hmm.
telling my mom like, why did we always like, chain up? Her name was Mele,
Hmm.
in the back, and no one ever played with her. It was just like a dog there. And now that I think about it, I like feel so bad that the dog spent her whole life chained up.
Yeah.
But I know it's prevalent like back in those days when we grew up, like that's how it was. You know what I mean? The
Right.
dog wasn't in the house and so forth. So it's just more of a cultural thing at
Yes.
that time. And I see it changing now though, where
Yes.
people are, more becoming more into dogs and having them in the house and treating them like they're babies and stuff, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And I think for these children, I think our best bet or what we can do is probably educate them in school,
right.
because or have a shelter that actually does field trips. And I believe Humane Society started something, and I don't know exactly what it is, but to have frequent field trips
To
from,
humane. Yeah,
yeah, to Humane Society or even other rescues or even OSPCA or um that type of thing, so that way they can see and understand what compassion is. That there's what is it, Oahu Animal Sanctuary,
hmm,
Aloha Animal Sanctuary,
yeah.
and they have all these different animals. And I
That's the one in
believe they started,
Kaneohe.
yes,
Kaneohe. Yes.
And I believe they're starting some type of tours for people and whatnot. And that's a perfect example for children to go because there's
Exposing them to animals and love. Yeah.
and love
So,
exactly.
so what role does fostering and adoption play in your guys' mission, and how can people help?
So fostering and adoption is something we cannot stress how important it is. Right now, this year alone, the overpopulation of animals is ridiculously high. I've been to beaches and homeless camps and have seen 30 dogs in one camp, 50 dogs in one camp. We're talking crazy numbers. This is just one camp, like one family with all these dogs, not the entire camp. We're talking about one family.
One family. What was the
One
purpose of
family.
having all these dogs? Is just that
Right.
they
So that was my point. Like I went there and I'm like, hey, let me help you guys out. You guys need me to take some of these dogs. Let me try get them fostered out. What about fixing them? They don't want to because they're breeding them. Any dog that they can breed, regardless of what breed it is, that's some type of money. And whatever they cannot sell ends up dead, right? Either run over or in their pack or with parvo or God for I mean, it's a miracle if they even survive a year,
right,
So it's huge. That population alone is incredibly crazy. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because during COVID, and this is just one of the reasons, during COVID our shelters went empty, right? Because everybody had to stay home. Everybody wanted uh something that wouldn't drive them nuts. And who best, right? The animals are rehabilitation for us,
right,
right?
hundred
So why
percent.
not us rehabilitate them, right? So it, when that happened, all these homeless people caught wind of it. They started breeding their animals. So the breeders who actually was good breeders, right? There are some out there. I don't agree on
Responsible
breeding.
breeders. Yeah,
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 but
agree.
there are some out there. Um, they lost their battle because now there's everybody on a beach or all these homeless people that's breeding animals, selling them cheaper, saying that it's this breed and that breed and whatnot, and people are just buying. And so they're still trying to catch that high from COVID, and it's
Right.
gone. It's gone. So now our population is ridiculously crazy right now. And for us to try and reach out and do spay and neuter clinics, like Aloha Animal Outreach, they're doing wonderful things. Aloha Affordable Vet, they are part of that. They're doing wonderful things. Um, they're doing spay and neuter clinics around the island. So they had in Waianae, they
I
now
see.
moving to Waimanalo, so they're doing good. Even Hawaii Dog Foundation, they're a part of that group that's making a difference. But then you have the stubborn people, right? The ones that don't want their dogs fixed, the ones that don't want vaccinations. So what can we
So the
do?
spade and needle clinics is to help to control the population, right? Across
Yes.
the island. Yeah, makes sense.
Yes. And
So
they don't only spay neuter, they spay neuter, they vaccine, and they chip one time,
yeah,
right? Because now there's so much parvo out there. It's not even safe to take most of your dogs to any beaches these days, right? Because now parvo is widespread on this island.
mm.
So people who take their dogs to the beach and play with them and whatnot, it's not safe anymore.
And especially if your dog's not vaccinated.
Yeah.
Yes, and most
Yeah.
dogs are not. Yeah.
Right.
So if someone wants to get involved with helping fostering, because I know fostering is a huge need for your organization until they find a permanent family home. How can one reach out and start their process if they're willing to open up their doors?
So we have they can reach out to us on our social media, or we do have a website. It's hinaslegacyrescue.org. There is a section on there where they can fill out a form of inquiry, and then
Okay.
we'll contact them back. What we do is we'll send them an application. We'll do the proper screening. That screening entails calling references that they have on their application, doing a home inspection. And the home inspection is not to scare them off, but to make sure that the dogs are secured. And especially because rescues, they're flight risks, right?
Yeah.
They go into a new place and they're scared and they just, all they want to do is just get out, get away.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that the yard is secure, the home is secured, no broken windows, and we don't go into private areas like bathrooms and bedrooms and that sort of things. Just the common general areas to do the inspection, and then at that point, if everything checks out, then they become our foster. And the one thing good about our organization is we will provide all services. So we'll do
Nice.
their vetting, we'll do their medical, no matter how extensive it is, food, necessities, beddings, everything, unless they say, and there's a lot of people that actually speaks out and say, we don't need this, we'll take care of it. And that's kind of good because it helps us out, but that's what our obligation is. We're
Right.
obligated to do that. And so
And how
fostering and adoption is just
the best.
huge. We
Yeah.
need more people. We don't have enough with all these animals. The overpopulation is just, we don't have enough people for them.
So once they're on your foster list, they get adopted. These foster families can stay on their. Sorry, this is my
I
my
know, I love
my
I love
foster
him.
dog that became my dog, Leo.
I love him. I see him all
um,
the time.
yeah, that's what started my whole mission with helping dogs. Prior to that, it was a blind eye to me. Like I'd never, realized the amount of, abandoned dogs. I would just drive by, not even thinking about it. And then when
Right,
he came into my life, then that opened up a whole different world view of this hidden, issue that I never knew about.
right.
And then I started digging more into it and finding more about how bad the situation was all because of him. Um,
Well, that's a
but
blessing.
so, how can the community get involved and support your cause?
A number of ways right now. Most importantly is fostering adoptions. At any time they can reach out to us. We have a wonderful trainer. Her name is Beth. We try to have training classes every week, and sometimes things come up. But during that time, if people want to go by and watch the training and meet dogs that way too, perfect, because all these dogs that is going to training is actually our rescues that have not been adopted yet. And there's
Amazing.
some that actually comes that people adopt the dogs and they still want to continue training, right?
Yep.
Perfect, I'll pay for it. So um that's one way that they can come and see the dogs. We do have an event coming up on November 2nd.
Yep.
It's the Mililani Town Association. It's a pet fair, I believe, Mililani Pet Fair.
Yep. We'll post the
um
details on here as well.
yeah, so we'll be there with some of our rescues, and ahead of time we'll be selling things, or doing like grab bags or that sort of things to help support the organization, because you know with the medical bills these days, and especially because we deal with most animal cruelties, and not saying that the other rescues don't, they do, they're just not as vocal as I am.
Right.
uh Most animals
So I
that
heard.
come through, right?
Yep. I heard
Right.
they're very vocal, which is good.
Yeah, yes, I am. Most organizations that is already doing rescue, every single dog almost is a part of an animal cruelty case, whether it's
Um,
abandonment, neglect, or by the hands of someone, or yeah, every single organization goes through the same thing. It's just I do a little bit more in depth, and I'm the type of person that won't say no if I can say yes.
yeah.
So if I have the means for it, whether it's, say somebody owns this animal and they really don't have the finances for certain things, believe it or not, we'll do it. We'll take care of the costs, if we can. And
Mhm.
not many organizations would. They'll request a surrender for the dog, and I'm not like that, because I feel like if we can keep them in their homes, why not, right? If we can help with vetting, or say there's an emergency surgery and they really can't do it, or even doing a shout out and putting them on our or Instagram or Facebook just to get the word out there that they need money for this or they need money for that. I mean, why not, right? That's where I'm at. I'm here for all the animals, whether they're in a home or on the street or with us.
So I think in addition, you do need monetary support donations as
Yes.
well. I think that's a
Yes.
huge thing, which will post your guys' link as well, where they can make the donations. And do you
Right.
have a list of people that continue to donate on a periodic basis?
Not
Well,
yet. I mean, there is some that do monthly donations, and then there's some that I can always depend on when we have emergencies, and
right.
they'll donate right away. Um, we are setting we're so basically our website is under construction, and we just opened a new account for different things. So we have an account that we want focused specifically on a facility. That facility will do a lot that we cannot do today. So we have that account that people can donate to. We have emergency accounts that they can donate to, and then we're going to start having monthly donors that can commit to donations. And right now we don't have the type of grants that most of the rescues do, like other organizations. We're new to this, so we're just feeling things out and trying to figure out how to get a part of that. So right now everything is basically dependent on the community, you
Yeah.
know, the compassion of the community.
I can say the real estate agent community, most of us are very, a huge portion of us, very dog loving. And, we have a list. I have a list of agents from all different brokerages, that I
Oh,
can reach out
nice.
to in the event you guys need assistance. And they're more than happy to give monetary donations right then and there on the spot.
That's
Um,
awesome. Yeah.
and so, last question. You mentioned that there's some changes that need to be made in our state laws. What are the top three changes that you think we need immediate change in the state legislation coming up in January, that we can introduce right away just to get this, issue resolved in animal cruelty?
So we last legislation we were working with Darius Keela. He is non-Akuli
Okay. Yep.
representative.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, he's amazing. He's the
Yep.
only one, and I believe that Noah had a big impact on his decision to introduce the animal cruelties laws again. And basically, what that was for was to increase the penalties, not to add to the laws or change the laws, but to take the laws that we have now and increase the penalties. And there was a lot of miscommunication where all of that was concerned, because everybody thought it was new laws coming in, and it wasn't. It was just to make sure that uh, the crime or the laws that we have now is increased to class A felony, class B, versus everything right now is a misdemeanor where animals are concerned.
Yeah. I read. Yeah.
And it's really bad. It's sad. So I believe that increasing it is one important thing, but what is more important is enforcement. I feel like Hawaii needs an animal cruelty task force
Separate from
specifically.
that,
Yes. And if,
yeah, that has prosecutors specifically for animal
yeah,
cruelty. Yep.
prosecutors, police officers, whether it's
Invest.
sheriff,
Yep.
right, or whether it's HPD. But I believe if there was a task force specifically for it, then we would have more things done for the animals.
Right.
So I feel like legislation needs to either appoint a department specifically for that, or at least get funding for it, right?
Mhm.
If there's an organization that is willing to step up and take that part of, and we would, right? But we need to find the right people who can get involved, like ex-police officers or attorneys or prosecutors that wants to be a part of that task force, and then possibly enter that into legislation. So that's another thing. As far as the third thing would be that people should not be able to breed until the
100%.
population is taken care of, until
Right.
this overpopulation is no longer. And even at that, if they're breeding, I feel like they need license to breed.
Yeah,
They
you
need
gotta get.
license, they
Yeah.
need documentation, they need to show their books, and not, I'm not talking about monetary, but just how many times a specific dog was bred, how many litters, and so on. Because let me tell you, these breeders, they breed to no end, and these dogs are, there's so many dogs that's overbred, and I'm not saying all of them are like that, but there's so many of them that's that way.
So these breeders should be enforced like a business, right? Because they are
Yeah.
kind of like a business.
Yeah. So if you
Um,
want to put them in a union standpoint, right? Say there's a union for breeders, right? Or an organized, and I don't know if there is, but I think recently I did hear about something like that. If there is one,
an
then
association as well.
association, yes,
Yes, I
they
have
should
membership.
they should be held accountable for everything that they do in their organization.
Right. Yeah. Just like real estate agents, we have we're an association. We're regulated. And
Right.
so it might, what I'm thinking when I hear you say is like they should be regulated,
Correct.
form an association, and then, controlled by the DCCA, right? Which is the ones that controls all the licensings
Right.
for
Right.
all
Because
the
there's a
sports.
lot of pet stores these days that get their animals from homeless people.
Hmm.
And I know this for a fact. They get their animals from people, backyard breeders. Where's the license for all of this? How come you can get animals like that and resell them, right? How come you can do consignment on an animal? Why? How is that okay, right?
Right.
And especially if they don't have papers, like how is that okay?
Right.
So that needs to be controlled, definitely.
And what about the law with the city and county where you have to register your dog and get
Yes.
a tag?
So
Is
that's,
that's not being enforced, right?
oh no, definitely not. So there was a case, the 30 dogs that I was telling you about uh, a homeless family with this 30 plus dogs, right? The law states that animals can only have 10 per household.
Wow.
Only 10. Now, I got to tell you something. That doesn't apply to people living on a beach. It's city and county, right? It's public, it's the community. It's not a home. It's so people living there, it doesn't apply to them, right? Because now they
Mm.
can say, oh, that's not my dog, but it's in their area.
Right.
And then that one family actually had 26 of those dogs chipped and registered to him. Why are they
Wow.
not catching that? Because you
Right.
cannot. You're not supposed to unless you're an organization, a rescue organization. So, and then you have those that don't chip their dogs, even though it's a law. They don't. So then, when we rescue these dogs and they're not chipped, and there's people are arguing, it's like, hey, it's the law. Why didn't you chip your dog? We rescue the dog. We put them up on Humane Society's website. There's a whole time that we have, and after that whole time, we don't have to hold on to the dog. We
Hmm.
can adopt them out. So it works against us. It works against us. It works against them.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is we should treat these dogs, like us, like where we get
Like
licensed, you have our
human
driver's
beings.
license, and we everybody they're all registered,
Yes.
um, just like how we have to follow. So I totally agree.
Like how the federal keeps account of everyone living.
Yep,
Why can't we do
exactly.
that for these animals?
Dogs should have there's a registry, a
Yep.
list of every dog name tag.
Yep.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think
Yeah.
the state of Illinois, I've done some research, has one of the strictest dog animal cruelty laws in the country.
Yeah. And I feel like we are one of, I think, three states that has the worst laws for
That's
animals.
terrible. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
speaking of registry, here's another thing that I feel like needs to go into legislation is anytime someone is convicted, or actually I shouldn't even say convicted because they don't even convict anymore, right? But anybody who has been found with some type of sighting,
Violence. Oh yeah.
or anything like that, where an animal is concerned, should not be able to own an animal.
ever, right?
Yes, and there
Yeah.
should be a registry for that, just like the sex offenders registry. There should be
Hmm.
one.
Yep. 100% regulation. Right.
Yes.
Well, Chantell, I appreciate you coming on this call, and I appreciate your hard efforts and work that you've done. It seems like you have a lot you do. I read your bio, and you seems like this is a 24/7 job for you.
Yes.
And I feel like if you could rescue every dog on the island, you would. As I would too if I could fit them all in my house, but I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so after this call, we'll put the links up for people where they can donate to you guys.
Okay.
And then remind me, when is your event coming up? November
November
6th?
2nd. So it's a Mililani Rec 6
Okay.
and 9 to 2, I believe.
Okay. And we'll visit your website as well, get to know
Yes.
you guys more. And how many dogs right now needs to be fostered that are in your control? So people know.
Oh, um,
Or adopted. Most
adopted.
most
So let's
let's
go with
do adopted,
adopted.
right? Yeah,
I
let's
would
do adopted.
say I would say at least 30 of them.
30
And
dogs are
yes.
fostered and needs to be adopted
Yes.
ASAP.
And then
Got
we
it.
do actually have two emergency dogs that needs a foster, long-term foster. They have been in our organization. Well, one of them has been in our organization for a year now. Actually, I think yesterday made a year.
Mm,
And she's the sweetest dog, but because of her breed, and she has a lot of energy. It's been really hard to get her a steady foster.
okay.
Another one is Maverick. He's a tripod, and he needs a foster too because the foster that has him, she's exhausted. She
Mm,
has a lot of cats. She has dogs, and that's the thing with the fosters that we have now. We're basically piling them up on them, and because we can't say no, or we're trying not to say no. But nowadays, it's just it's become an easier thing for us to say no versus
it's hard, yeah.
anything. So we have two dogs that really need to be fostered right now.
And where if someone was interested, how can they reach out to you?
So they can reach us same way. So hinaslegacyrescue.org,
Okay,
and just fill out the inquiry and mention the recording or mention you, and we'll know what it is.
got it. Okay, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all the
Thank
hard work
you.
that you're doing and continue to do. And let's just hope, in the 2025, we can make some changes in our
Yes.
state laws coming soon. I think
Yes.
that'll make a huge impact.
It's
So again,
important.
thank you
Yeah.
so much, and
Okay.
let's continue the work.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you, Shandell.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.